ይሰማኛል። እንደምን አላችሁ? ሰላም ናችሁ?
ሰላም ነን። ቴንክ ዩ። ፕሮፌሰር አሰፋ ድምጽ ይሰማል? ይሰማል። ኦኬ። ከዛ በመቀጠል ፕሮፌሰር አብደላ
Good morning, and for some, good afternoon, for some, good evening. My name is Aklog Birara. Before I introduce our distinguished keynote speaker, allow me to express my appreciation to all keynote speakers, presenters, moderators, as well as you, the participants, and those that are participating through social media. Second, this first of a kind symposium traversing 4 days would have been unrealistic to execute without the direct involvement of the entire EWAC board of directors and its leadership team, especially the scientific and hydraulics thematic group led by Dr. Samu Mogas and his team, and EWAC's capable facilitator in Ethiopia, journalist Tigist Kasa, who I believe has joined or will soon join. The symposium coordinating committee led by Professor Achamele Devela. I have seen Dr. Acha. The EWAC PR team led by the capable Ato Konofisa, the tireless and approachable Secretary General of EWAC, Ato Samuel Hapte, as well as the web seminar guru, the capable Atos Haidemaka. Sir, I would like to pay a special tribute to the GERD Collaborative Consortium led by my friend Ato Daniel Getachew. I haven't seen him, but I'm sure he'll join. That played a vital role in creating an organic link with our compatriots in Ethiopia to IPSA, to aspire to grassroots level GERD support groups across the globe, as well as to the scientific and academic community in Ethiopia. This indeed is a partnership like no other that Ethiopians have organized. EWAC also commends those who contributed their monies, their funds in support of the video taping that has taken place with regard to conversants from Ethiopia. I like to spend a couple of minutes why we are doing this symposium. From its inception, the Ethiopian Waters Advisory Council believed that to be relevant, it must underpin its work on a holistic model of the GERD and Ethiopia's transboundary rivers. EWAC organized its activities accordingly into scientific, technical, hydraulic, environmental, socio-economic, educational, historical, and geopolitical groups in order to achieve these goals. We believe that this symposium shall enhance knowledge sharing and elevate Ethiopia's standing on the international scene. Second, the objective of the first symposium that we are conducting today is grouped into 2 sessions, is to present Ethiopia's case to the international audience in a unified, coherent, strategic, and forward-looking manner, reflecting our shared vision of the future And the reason why we titled this symposium, Shaping the Future, GERD, NILE, Equity and Sustainability, is in order to achieve this objective. Third, the second symposium, which will take place on the 23rd of October, plans to showcase the engagement and participation of Ethiopia's energetic and creative grassroots level GERD support groups and associations across the globe who are extremely well versed and engaged. The third and final symposium is intended to mobilize resources, technical, scientific, as well as funds, because the project is still in process of completion. The penultimate objective of this symposium is to make a difference in the perceptions of the international community, injecting sound reasoning, drawing from and showcasing Ethiopia's expanding scientific, technical, professional, and activist community around the globe. The first of a kind symposium on the GERD Nile involves Ethiopia's experts only for one reason. I underscore this, that it's Ethiopian experts that are participating for one reason only, to demonstrate to the international community that Ethiopia's talent pool on the GERD Nile speaks from the same script. I assure the audience that EWAC's future symposium will be international and all-inclusive. This leads me to a couple of points in terms of value added. What are the expected outcomes of our symposium? A, to elevate the awareness of the international community on the GERD and the Nile. B, to broaden and deepen shared knowledge and understanding of the GERD and Nile. C, to complete and edit abstracts proceedings and share them with the wider world community and as well as Ethiopians. D, to generate a menu of action steps for EWAC's institution building efforts. And finally, to continue mobilization, empowerment, and showcasing the pool of talent and institutions associated institutions Ethiopia possesses on water resources, and to contribute effectively to the completion of the GERD for the benefit of more than 70 million people who lack electricity today. Permit me finally to share with you a personal note why I'm thrilled and energized by this symposium. When I was a child in elementary school, I could really read only during the day. In high school, I could only access electricity or electric light, read books, and do my homework from the street lamp near the municipal building of the school where I attended. Electricity then was not only scarce, but unavailable to most poor people. Against this world of darkness for my generation, more pronounced today than before because of increasing population growth, I had always hoped that Emperor Haile Selassie's wise guidance in 1964, which I quote, Ethiopia is prepared to share Blue Nile waters Abai with its neighbors in a fair, equitable manner, while ensuring that Ethiopia's primary responsibility is to utilize its waters and support its growing or changing economy and growing population will be achieved in my lifetime. I really didn't expect that this will happen, but it's happening. So I'm delighted about it. I'm therefore very pleased to note and to record that the GERD is no longer a concept, it's a reality, as we will see in the symposiums that will follow. It's a reality with socio-economic and geopolitical benefits that that offer prospects not only for tens of millions of Ethiopians, but also to neighboring countries, as we'll see in the presentations that will follow. I shall now turn to the primary job that have been given, assigned, namely to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker. our distinguished keynote speaker for the first symposium, Dr. Engineer Seleshi Bekele, chief negotiator on transboundary rivers and GERD, with the rank of minister in the office of the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, is really someone we know and appreciate and admire. And I don't think it will be appropriate for me to go over his resume. But His Excellency served Ethiopia as Minister of Water, Irrigation, and Energy with distinction. He has more than 30 years of experience. I will not, therefore, try to cover his vast contributions. He continues, in my view, to motivate, empower, energize all of us. His Excellency took time from his extremely busy schedule today in order to share with us the wisdom and the vast experience he has garnered. And I'm so grateful, Your Excellency, to invite you to the podium to be our first keynote speaker. Please welcome Dr. Seleshi with a standing ovation, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate very much what your distinguished Ethiopians are doing from all over the world. I'm very happy to make a statement during this session. I think your support, your energy, and your wisdom contributes to the needed transformation and development of your country. So I also would like to thank you all for your dedication and spending time thinking about this and preparing this distinguished type of symposium. Today, I'm not really deeply talking about GERD. You know, in a different forms of engagement, whether it's via Zoom or other mechanisms, we have been talking a lot. The simple reason is the topic I'm given is what is Ethiopia's water resource, Ethiopia's water resource as a pillar of development, and what are the visions and roadmaps. So I want to share with you what we have at hand and what we are trying to do and where we are going with our precious resource. Distinguished personalities, I want to bring to your attention first, the world generally is in the era of dramatic change. We have numerous drivers of change such as water scarcity, energy crisis, climate change, urbanization, food shortage, conflict, pandemics, rapidly growing population, e-commerce, ICT, and digital science, all are creating rapid changes with increasing challenges and opportunities, especially for us in developing or developing economies. These are mostly challenging us, or we are not capturing the opportunities. These drivers of change are accelerating changes in economic, social, environmental, and political developments, be it at national, regional, and global level. So in the midst of this, Ethiopia is at a pivotal point in its history of change and transformation in the quest for growth and prosperity. As most of you know, Ethiopia has 12 river basins. 8 of them are wet, 3 dry, and 1 lake, 1 major lake. Lake basin, I mean, when I say 1 lake, it's about lake basin, the Rift Valley Lakes Basin. And we have 980 BCM or billion cubic meter of rainfall, 122 BCM surface water, out of which, out of this 980 or nearly a trillion amount of rainfall, nearly 40 billion cubic meter of groundwater, few wetlands, about 12 of them, 11 fresh and 9 salty lakes, and 50 major man-made lakes with an estimated 5 to 7.5 million hectares of irrigable land. This water resource, 2/3 of the water, a little bit lower than 2/3 of the water, and 40% of this irrigation potential are in Blue Nile, Baro, and Takaze, what is commonly known as the Nile part of Ethiopia. Considering the country's energy potential, the average solar energy is huge, generally 5.5 kilowatt hour per square meter. You can imagine you can get about over 6 million megawatt. Hydropower potential, 45,000 megawatt. Wind output can provide us up to 1,000 gigawatt at 7 meters per second and 50 meter height, and geothermal is also available at about 10,000 megawatt. Our GERD, Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam, which is going to produce by completion, is 5,150 megawatt or 15.7 terawatt hour, which is at 81% completion. And it is expected to generate the electricity with one turbine around the beginning of December or end of November. In parallel with multiple development projects over the last year, we have been working on the 10-year National Development Plan set forth, and the efforts around the homegrown economic reform come together to consolidate a brand new Ethiopia with hopes and dreams beyond our wildest imagination. The Ministry of Water, Irrigation and Energy now is Ministry of Water and Energy. Irrigation organically grown to an independent ministry together with lowland development. This ministry, MOWI, as it was operating until last Tuesday, has been doing its part to ensure that we meet the ambitious countrywide goals set forth. This 10-year strategic plan takes into consideration the current and past lessons to come together to co-create a strategic direction that will ensure we meet our goals of achieving a lot of important indicators. So the importance of this sector's 10-year development plan is to accelerate sustainable water management and river basin development, make drinking water and sanitation available to all citizens, as well as accelerate irrigation development and thereby increase production and productivity to ensure supply for industries and food security. In addition, ensure provision of adequate energy by developing private-public partnership alternatives as well. Moreover, to improve living standard and build the economy by providing access to electricity and services. Overall, the purpose of this sector's 10-year development plan is to contribute to ensuring sustainable development in the economic, social, environment, and political sectors. Distinguished listeners, why I'm relating you to this broader perspective than just a project, I think we are very much taken away into the GERD issue. Enlightened people, professionals like you, should really think beyond the GERD as well, that could sustainably transform our nation. So a specific subsector vision we have established are like universal access to water by 2025, light for all again by 2025, food security and import substitution of all food items by 2030. And to do this, we have as obvious strategic directions. We have core values to provide service, innovation and creativity, equity and fairness, intolerance to corruption and the like. So for this, we need a lot of initiatives, a lot of support from the national and diaspora community. So if you could join our hands together, I am sure we can achieve this ambitious agenda. That's why I'm calling it wildest imagination. So, however, we have to remind ourselves the main challenge. We have high variability of rainfall and hydrology, especially and temporally, especially eastern part of our country is desert-like, and the central and western part has got significant rainfall, but it is also in a limited period of time. At maximum, 1/3 of the year has got good rain, but the rest is dry or semi-dry type of situation. Also temporally, therefore it implies in our hydrology as a peak in certain months like months of August, and then normally distributed between June to October. The rest is, you can call it dry spells, even in the big rivers. We have also transboundary rivers, which are problematic for us, not freely utilize our resource. The downstream countries always look at us, what we are trying to do for our own development. Although we know that we don't consume the whole water, or we don't have the potential of land and the like to completely utilize the water. But the downstream countries, especially from Egypt and Sudan, the way they look at us is that this river water belongs to them, which is completely unacceptable. And also nowhere in the world is such kind of law or principle exists. This resource is also, of course, rapidly dwindling when you look at per capita availability. We are approaching 122 billion surface water means when you divide it by 117 now or so, is almost 1,000, is reaching the threshold. For us, it is really very important to invest in infrastructure for water storage and managing water to utilize it for those areas I have mentioned, like irrigation and so on. So what is the current situation? Water supply coverage is at 59% with new standard. We set recently new standard of reaching at least 25 to 100 liter per capita per day. In the rural area, 25 liters. In urban areas, 40 to 100. In the cities like Addis, at least 100 liter per capita per day must be availed. Within this, 20 to 100% piped water. And in our strategy, we differentiate as rural, urban, and institutional. However, based on old standard, which is lower, coming down to 15 liter per capita per day, the access rate is about 80% national coverage. Sanitation coverage, as you all know, remains poor, but we are doing really certain dramatic changes in 23 cities by trying to provide major public toilets with good facilities. Also declared open defecation free country by 2024. This campaign is ongoing, and hopefully we'll achieve this because we are relating it to other development, like if you supply water to certain community, every household must therefore fulfill the provision of sanitation facility or toilet at homestead. In terms of irrigation, we are aspiring by 2030 in medium and large scale to reach 1,500, 1,500,000 hectare. But in a small scale, we can do double of that because you do at all backyard and small streams and so on. So out of our potential 7.5, we're hoping to reach 60% or so potential by 2030. When we take hydro or energy sector, we also have a very low access rate. That access rate is around 47% at the moment, out of which about 12% is through off-grid, and the rest is through on-grid. So a lot to do, 53%, but we have seen now very promising results, especially through off-grid, where we have completed 12 and started double of that, 25, and then in this Ethiopian year also will put in place or start to construct about another 130 off-grid sites, especially in the remote parts of the country, where we take Warada Center as entry point to supply this provision. So in terms of looking at it strategically, I would like to mention 4 pillars. Of course, centrally, we have a vision of water, food, and energy secure Ethiopia. So these 4 pillars are, one is on development and sustainable water management, where you see here clearly the information system, looking at watershed management, in terms of information system, we can modernize like meteorology and hydrology as remotely collected data, radar systems, and integrate this to models, and developing these models and interconnecting to the automated weather station or hydrological station is crucial. So it can develop the real-time operation system for our dams and others. The second pillar is water supply and sanitation for all. As I have said earlier, the vision is to look into the next 4 years as a really rapidly growing water supply according to standard. Accelerated irrigation development for food and industry is the third pillar, and the fourth one is rapid energy development, reform, and access for all. So energy development need to take into account investment from the private sector, but access creation remains the public arena, and reform, for example, is considering these institutions like Ethiopian Electric Power and Utility to be as permanently moving to corporate-like institutions, whereby they benefit from the sovereign fund. So along these 4 strategic pillars, we can see specific enablers or topics, those which can be unlocked into a number of areas of work. The first one, for example, for the basin, I can mention 4 of them: basin and water resource information system, surface and groundwater, meteorology, water quality. Second one is sustainable use of natural resources, land, water, climate, forest, and biodiversity. The third one is basin development and protection. And fourth one is boundary and transboundary management. And under water supply, similarly 4 areas: drinking water supply for human, that means rural, urban, municipal, industrial, and institutional, and animal. Most of our people depend on livestock and pastoralist livelihood system. So in those areas, we need to provide adequate water. We shouldn't put those economic sector or production system into vulnerability. And then sanitation, wastewater, and quality management is another pillar, sub-pillar within the strategic priority. Management of information system for water supply and sanitation, and fourth one is institutional capacity development and sustainable financing. We have started certain sustainable financing schemes. For example, utilities borrow fund from revolving fund and they pay back. And so far we have dispersed about 25 billion birr, and collection is also picking up, exceeded already 2 billion birr. Around irrigation, small, medium, and large scale irrigation development is the first pillar. You might have heard from our Prime Minister that we are rapidly scaling up irrigation. That is why we organically grew to a full-fledged ministry. It's a very good news if you consider it from budget sharing, provision of focus, and the importance that it could provide in the country. Within this, second pillar is river corridor-based growth. This idea, which I have been promoting, and some of you have already participated in the past, is to look at our major river basins like Abai, Baro, Takaze, Awash, and so on. Just consider like Egypt, for example, just depends on the Nile and living on 4% of the land, but producing a significant amount of food and export items. So why not we really focus on our river corridors to develop adequate food and develop our natural resource. Enabling use and commercial farming. In this context, we have been struggling to really bring graduates to occupy these river corridors and then produce commercial farming, inculcate basic, commercial farming or the initial startup of irrigation development that leads to future large-scale commercial farmers in Ethiopia. And fourth one is measured import substitution and input. I can tell you that the good news, just last year, 2020, 2021, some dry season, we produced about 50 million quintal of wheat, where we in a situation where we had deficit of 17 million. So we shrinked the gap from 70 million quintal to just 2 million quintals. This year, we will work similarly and completely substitute import. So that is a vision we have around these three pillars in energy, rapid growth of generation, grid network, customer connectivity. Second one is energy access for all, whether it is through grid, off-grid, and also pre-electrification like solar home system and isolated homes need to also get some light. Sustainable financing and revenue, the tariff and the like were at a deplorable stage when I took up the ministerial position, now from less than 2 cents and approaching 6 cents per kilowatt hour. We have to still push up so that this sector becomes sustainable without hurting also the poorest segment of our society. So there are ways to screen that no additional cost be incurred to the poor segment of society. Energy sector reform, efficiency, and transformation is also very important. So I just mentioned four enablers from each of the 4 pillars. So I'm sure then you have the idea of what we are trying to do and where we are going, and you can easily also identify the areas where you could work with that, collaborate, and support your country. In fact, in this context, I can tell you that we have completed a strategic plan which anchors all this together and what needs to be done in each area. So I think given the time, I wouldn't take you to more detailed issues. For example, when you say under the vision of water supply for all by 2025, what we are going to do is also clearly articulated in about 12 different components. For example, utilizing One Wash, which is a unique program in Ethiopia, which is sharing to the world how to do, planning together with development partners and multi-stakeholders in the nation, and address financing, planning, monitoring, evaluation, and implementation issues together. Within those ideas like climate resilience, where drought-prone areas, where our country is highly vulnerable, benefits by taking water from where it is available to where it is needed, by conveying water through long distance instead of transporting water during drought period, etc. I also transform the sector using modern management information system, using the IT technologies and so on, collect data from everywhere where water is supplied, and based on that establish proper O&M mechanism and investment mechanism. urban water supply and sanitation, open defecation free, etc. Are what I have told you. I think with this, let me stop because time I'm given is not more than 30 minutes. I think I'm within that time limit. I thank you very much. If you have a few questions, I will respond, but soon I have to also depart to another meeting. I thank you very much really for giving me this opportunity. I look forward to work with all of you with different capacity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We appreciate your presentation. It's insightful. It's more than what I expected. You have covered a lot of stuff. The pillars you have identified give us all hope. With that, I'd like to ask the Master of Ceremony at Okona to guide us in terms of the next step. And I invite the moderator through him, Dr. Asafa, to moderate the rest of the session, including questions and answers. Mind you that Engineer Seleshi, Dr. Seleshi, and Mr. Seleshi agreed to come and make a presentation, but he has a heavy schedule, so we need to take into account his time limitation. With that, let me turn over the microphone to Ato Kona and through him to the moderator. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this GERD/NILE International Symposium. My name is Connor. I'll be your Master of Ceremony, along with Magdalawit Masai, who will take over the second half of this symposium. At this point, I would like to tell you some of the procedures. Please mute your microphones, and would like to see your face. Turn on your video and turn off or mute your microphone. Other than that, throughout this session, our moderator will be Dr. Asafa Melissa from the Florida International University. He will take the podium in a moment. But until then, I ask everyone, if you have a question, do not speak without raising your hand or without posting your questions through the chat room or through the Q&A. So at this point, I would like to introduce Dr. Asafa Melissa. Please unmute and proceed, Dr. Asafa.
Thank you very much, Connor. Thank you very much, everybody. First of all, I would like to again say thank you. Take a few minutes to say thank you for Dr. Seleshi for coming today with us. And I would like to say also thank you for your leadership and service that you're providing to the country when it was needed. So now I'm going to say a couple of points before I open the forum for questions and comments. Dr. Seleshi has raised a need to think beyond GERD, which is really a very important point in terms of food security, in terms of energy security, innovations, and also other areas. And also he focused on the need for infrastructure, particularly support also from GERD was also an area that he has also mentioned. There is quite an issue in terms of spatial temporal variability of rainfall and hydrology, which is also another issue when it comes to water resource development. There is a need for investment on infrastructure, particularly hydrologic structures, and also water storage as another focus area. He has also mentioned the types of initiatives and what has been done so far in terms of access to water, access to energy, and improvement that has been there since he took office. The 4 strategic areas was also mentioned in terms of energy security, water development and sustainable management, rapid energy development. These are actually areas that has been there, but also a focus area for the ministry and also other water resource sectors. So with that, I'm going to please send your questions and comments through chat to Magdalawi or to myself, and then we should be actually able to summarize and try our best to forward it to Dr. Seleshi to respond. But before that, I would like to ask two questions, which I believe will be maybe will summarize also what maybe most of you would like to hear from Dr. Seleshi. I'm going to focus on GERD, even though we need to focus beyond GERD, but GERD is really very important. One is about the water sharing questions. You know, so far we are really bogged with this non-consumptive water use of water with GERD, and we cannot even think about the most fundamental questions, which is water right and water sharing equitably. So if this non-consumptive use of NILE GERD, which is triggered this level of antagonism and endless negotiations, and also intentionally, I believe, say, misleading demands, particularly to talk about water sharing, how can we really go into the real question, which is the right for Ethiopia to actually use its water for consumptive uses, which is really very, very important. This is one question, and maybe related to this is in terms of benefit sharing. It has been said before, and also even recently, we also see it on the news that Sudan is interested in buying, 1,000 megawatt of energy from Ethiopia, and there is this talk of about benefit sharing, where Sudan will be investing on food production, Ethiopia on energy productions. And now the question is, how feasible is this? Particularly one, because it can compromise Ethiopian right to actually use its water for the intended purpose. And secondly, there is high interdependence of these types of arrangement between the basin countries. So if we cannot even sit down and talk about a very straightforward non-consumptive use of water, coordinations and working smoothly with Sudan or Egypt on benefit sharing would be a little bit hard. So I want to hear your response to these two questions, which are related but also very important. So let's start with this, Dr. Seleshi.
Thank you, Professor Asafa, for your questions. The first one, the concept of water sharing is something very fundamental and crucial in our Nile Basin discourse from the period of CFA, even prior to that, whereby the two downstream countries are talking the built ore, saying that water belongs to them, blah, blah, confusing the international community, sharing the entire Nile water among themselves. And when we started building our Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam, they want to portray it as if it is water consumptive and damaging them and affecting their water share. All these are noises, actually. In our negotiation, we are strictly talking about these things very clearly. Ethiopia would not recognize what they call their existing water share, water quota, water security, what have you. Ethiopia believes in equitable and reasonable utilization of the resource without causing significant harm on any riparian country, but doesn't recognize also existing use, which is done on their side unilaterally, but claiming that our side must respect whatever they are saying, because it's beyond the doubt it is unreasonable and unacceptable. So with the right issue and the water sharing issue, on our side, we use it deliberately, and definitely we need to get a way out of, if they are looking for water sharing, we have to define what will be the quota of Ethiopia, what will be Sudan's, and that's of Egypt and also other riparian countries for that matter. So one cannot talk about quota and sharing without having an agreed water allocation criteria or water sharing agreement among all riparian countries. So in our articles, therefore, we justify those operational rules and guidelines we are putting together that is coming on GERD site only, cannot be used as a water allocation or defining a water quota, because upstream of the GERD we have a lot of needs in future. It's not limited to the thresholds we have provided. Those thresholds must be adjusted, otherwise our dam will be affected. It's not about our use upstream, but it's about our dam. Our GERD should not be compromised as a result of our water utilization upstream. That is our position. But their position is bringing some article like international law, like articles which are not actually considered as international water law, like prior notification and so on, to be integrated into this agreement. Those are not acceptable, because when we reach at the current hydrological condition threshold of 37 or 31, we are just considering the so far historical data that is coming to GERD side. Therefore, we have to, in future, adjust when upstream water use or climate change or other variables affect the hydrology. The optimal operation of the dam must be adjusted accordingly. So the fight is, they want to hideously integrate some articles that could make Ethiopia's right to be surrendered, but we are very cautious for every point, word, and commas. So that is the important concept around water sharing and so on. We haven't reached the water sharing, but in the agreement, we want to put that at some point in future. In 10 years, we want to arrive at water sharing. If that water sharing and water allocation agreement is not achievable, then the agreement must be nullified, or whoever wants to get out of it can actually discontinue the agreement. There are also other issues they are raising, like the binding nature of the agreement, things like that. Those are, once you sign, whether it is MOU, rules and guidelines, or agreement, is the same. In the international court, it's or international law, it's the same validity. So that is where we are in this. And the second one, on the benefit sharing concept vis-a-vis Sudan's intention of buying electricity from Ethiopia, we are exchanging electricity. We sell to them electricity right now, up to 200 megawatt. For the last 1 year, we didn't receive the paycheck, but about $50 million. However, we are practicing it. We are practicing it with Djibouti. We are completing a $1.8 billion investment with Kenya, which is one of the modern transmission systems in Africa, transmitting up to 2,000 megawatt. So through that, we can roll it to Tanzania, Uganda, Burundi, and so on. So this, in a nutshell, brings the East Africa power pool or East African countries to be integrated. We talk about African integration, regional integration, but these are some of the practical ways to do regional integration. Energy integration is one of the key infrastructure integration. Transport could be another, trade is another, and so on. So,
yeah, he's disconnected at this point. Maybe he's trying to come back.
I know there are raised hands, and also I see some questions through the internal chat. I'm not sure if we have time to entertain that, but let's see if he's going to join us back. Connor, do you see, is he the one who joined now?
No, he's not. He's not yet.
Okay. I think with that, I'm very sorry for our participants that we couldn't.
Hello. تملشالو.
Dr. Seleshi, okay, good to see you. Okay, please proceed.
Connection from computer is disrupted, so now I'm from phone.
Okay.
Okay, so we're taking this question. Last week they were here negotiating the power purchase agreement and things like that, but it's a pure business. Like there is no real commitment. We invested $5 billion. What they did is only trouble us not to complete in time. So there is no such forced commitment, rather collaborative commitment for regional integration and real neighborhood.
Okay.
So I hope I have answered your questions.
Yes.
Yeah, but on the benefit sharing arena, well, there is this saying, you know, we do power, Sudan do food productions. I mean, it won't be in other basins.
No.
Sensibilities here.
No, this is rhetoric, Professor.
Okay.
You can't just prescribe somebody from own advantage point of view, prescribe to another sovereign nation what to do with its resource. No, we have huge irrigation potential as well, fishery, tourism, and so on. So we do what we want to do with our share. Obviously, if you think of hydropower, for example, Ethiopia has comparative advantage, we develop that. But it doesn't mean that we don't need water for food production or industrial development. So we have to see it that way. We are not that integrated politically and economically to say that in this special allocation, in the most downstream part we industrialize, or in the middle part we do agriculture, in the upper part we do energy only. No, because these are distinctly different economies. So we have to manage it accordingly.
Thank you very much. Yes, I want you to give that direct answer, because that's been floating for few months since I read about it. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, if we are really faithfully negotiating, trusting each other, and so on. For example, Ethiopia can go to Sudan and cultivate land, or Sudanese or Egyptian come to Ethiopian highland and generate electricity, and we exchange investments, then that is a plausible thing to do, or optimal thing to do. But where each nation is trying to fulfill its needs on it independently, you can't just keep Ethiopian farmers in perpetual poverty and say you have electricity and that's all. So it doesn't work for us.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to give a very quick and short question, please, Dr. Lamai, and then follow Dr. Alam.
Thank you, Dr. Asafa, and thank you, Dr. Seleshi, very much for the good presentation. My question, and I will make it very short, but it goes beyond GERD, and I will not have this opportunity. Therefore, I will bring it up. It's really national, and it touches on our capacity or possibility of developing our water resources for multiple purposes. And the core question is tied to the issue of separating the irrigation portion of your old organization and the power portion. I come at it, or I look at it from the perspective of the possibility of developing is tied to the financial feasibility and economic feasibility. If you do not subsidize, and I'm cutting the technical language and using a lay word as subsidize, if you don't subsidize irrigation, you will really have a hard time developing. A good example for those of us who are fortunate to be in America and who have seen the work of the reclamation, Bureau of Reclamation and whatnot, or how the West is won. Our generation subsidized the reclamation work of the West. I will not go into the technical reasons, but that is how it's developed. And it's been my view from my early days working in the Awash Valley Authority to explain that we really need to bring all these purposes and
Okay, I got the question.
Thank you.
Sorry, sir. On this issue of growing irrigation to a ministerial level is, I expect everybody appreciates and take it as a real opportunity once for all to focus on food production and industrial input production. What is happening in recent years since Prime Minister Abiy took office is really, particularly in the last 2 years, increasing the investment on irrigation quite significantly. It's the second highest budget recipient next to roads in Ethiopia. Of course, energy is invested differently. It's not getting allocation from Treasury, but takes loans from banks. And therefore, this rapid growth in terms of budgeting needs serious attention, especially as it relates to not in terms of investment and leveraging from energy to irrigation, rather focusing on irrigation development and making it successful. We have many equipped irrigation infrastructure, but not successfully developed in terms of agronomy and production. So when we relate it to the lowland development, it doesn't mean it prevents highland development. It still have similar focus as in the past, but lowland, where we have vast land and also major rivers flowing through like Awash, Watershed, NILE, etc., not utilized. Left and right, even you can pump and harvest a lot. Just 1 year showed us a huge shift. You can even go to the social media now, what is posted as pictures and so on from Somali region, for example, by this piloting. So we can give adequate focus and rapidly scale up to fulfill our food needs, and also input needs to our industries like industrial parks and agro-processing centers. So it deserves to have a full ministry. So that means it will take care of end-to-end from planning up to complete operation and maintenance of schemes and agronomic practices. The concept of multi-purpose development is not undermined in this context. Most of the time, as you know, hydropower development is in the mountain and hilly areas. The investment you do, for example, in Gibe case, Gibe 1, cascaded to Gibe 2, and Gibe 3 is storage, Gibe 4 is another storage, we call it Koisha. Omo irrigation development then comes downstream of that. The regulated water upstream of the Omo irrigation development will benefit from, the regulated water comes from the dams. So the two are therefore integrated, the two investments, the energy investment and the irrigation investment. The same with Awash, the Koka and Awash 2 and 3 power generation are upstream, and then you go downstream, even you add more dams actually for storage to serve more irrigation development and also flood control. So downstream, the expansion of irrigated area benefits from the upstream investment again. So most of our hydro, unless you think of run-off hydro plant, most of them are making a very good room for downstream development for irrigation. So you can still consider them as multi-purpose development. In NILE Dawa also the same, when we plan the completed Dawa 3 is hydro, Ganaledawa 5 will come soon. And then downstream, we have huge command areas, and the investment will be optimized accordingly. So I think this is how we see it in terms of general study and how do we find that whether these are not suboptimally invested. We need them together through basin master plans. Basin master plans gives you where the energy potentials are and where the irrigation potentials are. Then investment you do for energy upstream will benefit flood protection and irrigation downstream. I hope I have answered your question. Sorry to cut you short.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Seleshi. Now let's go to Alan. Alan, again, short question, please.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Mine is short. Thank you very much for really giving us the vision in terms of water development in Ethiopia in addition to the transboundary. My question is regarding the coordination with diaspora institution or organizations here. I think you call upon to engage with development in Ethiopia. Now we have, I believe, 3 organizations, used to be 1. I see a big challenge in terms of coordination, even though we came a long way in terms of really coordinating with the institution in Ethiopia. I think that symposium we host today is a testament to that one. Do you see a one-stop mechanism so that, I mean, institutions here in diaspora can link up and coordinate without really having 3 different, engaging with 3 different ministries? Thank you.
Thank you very much. It depends on what area I would like to work, really. Different diaspora subgroups can be organized. You know, mostly what we are successful so far is on mobilization around the GERD in terms of financing and knowledge, and also mobilization around university to some extent to do research and build the capacity. There are also other niche areas which belongs to different sectors outside the water and energy sector. If you know, a group of water resource and hydrologists comes, they have a stopover at Ministry of Water and Energy, where in fact the wing of or the stream of river basin meteorological and hydrological information system and climate change, etc., are organized together. If specialists come in water supply, then there is a water supply state minister at Ministry of Water and Irrigation, Water and Energy. If you are working on energy sector, it's the same. And also, if you are working specifically on irrigation, it is the same. But here, even nationally, these ministries are not, you know, silos which do not talk to each other, actually. All in all, we aspire to work together as a team. So the coordination, then the lead could be one, but for example, if it is an issue of irrigation, it's not necessarily everything is done at irrigation, but with the river basin, about hydrology, about soil, etc. You work upstream and then interrelate. These are, you know, Ethiopian institutions. They have been in parallel under the same ministry, but now, since one needs to be given very serious focus and priority for food production success on irrigation, then it became ministry. It doesn't mean it doesn't take information from hydrology, meteorology, river basin, and utilize it. So for the diaspora community, I think, I'm sure it doesn't come in huge bulk, but it comes with some specialized area. If you have problems, let us know, really, whenever you come. And perhaps Ministry of Water and Irrigation, Energy is now a good entry point. Dr. Habtamu, I think many of you know, he was our student in Arba Minch and has a lot of experience, like most of us, in water sector, energy sector, irrigation sector. Therefore, we can really engage whoever is responsible for what your needs are.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your response. I'm looking into the chat session, and you really have covered most of them. There are some repetitive questions and comments, but one thing that strikes my mind is maybe something you know. We know there are integrated basin and master plans. Are there any plan to implement or development projects phase by phase? I think he's referring to the river basin development plans that the ministry has been working. It has been there for some time.
Yeah, we utilize that resource surely for special planning and so on. But as you know, master plans is just a master plan, is not to the detail of feasibility or even pre-feasibility. So we use them to identify the spatial location of significant potentials. So we start from that, considering it's like a reconnaissance or way up at pre-feasibility level, and then use it to do other things like feasibility design and implementation. So they are still valid and useful. In certain cases, you need to update them. We'll take on board those kind of aspects, but they remain beneficial and useful.
Okay, thank you. One more question from myself is, you know, the watershed development activities has been there for over 50 years, and still we see highly degraded watersheds. Still, we see one of the highest level of soil erosions, and we still see our rivers are actually drying during the low flow seasons. And I know we have now a new start of this reforestations and watershed development projects. I was wondering what's different this time and what we have learned so far from our past activities.
Well, a few things I can mention to you. You know, one, the Green Legacy Initiative is fundamentally a huge initiative. So far, we have reached in 3 years 18 billion plantation. Significant portion is really successful. One is, you know, in places where we have already some forest expansion and densification of those. In places where there was nothing and degraded, I think a lot of rehabilitation is happening as a result. You can really check. You can use any DVI and assess some of them where you think this kind of investments are done. You can trace it also in the beneficial dimension of this in terms of food security and income growth for poor people, especially where we have agroforestries. About 53% of this is really agroforestry, you know, avocado, papaya, mango, and so on. This is a deliberate attempt that Ethiopia can really be full of fruits and can export significantly. This is very obviously observed. The second dimension is, you know, consolidation of farmland and treats those farmlands carefully in terms of input supplies, in terms of mechanization, and in terms of intensification also. How many times do you produce per year matters. Instead of expanding agricultural land, reserve some of them to ecosystem function and afforestation, and on the remaining intensify by providing adequate input supply and do the way you do the mix of irrigation development, rainfed system, and groundwater development if surface water is not available. So that is the second dimension. The third dimension is to look at soil and water conservation. It's a little bit different from the Green Legacy Initiative. The Green Legacy Initiative is focusing on plantation. The soil and water conservation, which hugely mobilizes also the people in the rural area, 12-13 million per year for about 30 days free labor, is doing soil and water conservation. It's a little bit adjusted compared to the past practices, which was not successful. Blend it with plantation and proper, design of the structures and sizes, etc., are well advised by development agents. So I think we are reversing degradation in a significant way. At the moment, we estimate about 17% of the Ethiopian land is forest, compared to really very few years back, it came down to 4 or 5%. So I think we have to appreciate that. And if there are new knowledge and how to do better, that is where we have to collaborate.
Okay, thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now let's go on to the last question. Please make it brief, Dr. Edo Abraham.
Hello, thank you for your insights. My question, sorry if I've missed it because my internet was a bit intermittent, is regarding to all these projects. To what extent is there, let's say, social planning at national level in terms of the economic-wide impacts of all these projects, and where they are, let's say, synergetic, and also looking way ahead into the future, the place of Ethiopia within global transitions and so on. Could you comment on this, please?
Yeah, we can say a few things on impact as an outcome and impact of what we are trying to do. If you take Green Legacy Initiative, it is fundamentally Ethiopia is taking a leading role because we are developing huge amount of forest that enable sequestration of carbon. So not only ecosystem function and reversing degradation, but also contributing to the global agenda like Sustainable Development Goals or Paris Climate Agreement.
Recording in progress.
So just a moment, please.
Disconnected again.
You can, in that context, you can see very clearly how we could contribute to the global agenda. And in the social context, when you transform agriculture from just single rainfed dependent, highly vulnerable situation to more sustainable intensification and the production per hectare, not just once, but 2-3 times a year, you see poverty reduction and wealth creation in those systems. It's not really untrue that farmers these days are becoming owners of tractors and agricultural machineries, putting many millions in the bank, where they have good opportunities. So bringing these ideas carefully and reach out to everyone based on the potential and competence areas will help our country to transform. So the social dimension, yes, there are a lot of social stresses, job creations are very important, but unless you do this, if you want to solve the unemployment in urban area, for example, you have to have manufacturing, service sector, and industry. But industry and manufacturing, that's purely dependent on input coming imported. And the only thing you do is 10% value addition in Ethiopia is useless. You have to have the raw material. You have to have the cotton, you have to have the fruits so that you can create, make juice. You have to have the wheat to make pasta and so on. So through that, you can engage a lot of youth and employment. So you can address social dimension in this way. I think the trajectory is very good. Last year, we did very well in terms of employment, job creation in all areas where we develop parks, where you are making construction, etc. All are creating jobs. And efficiency of our jobs in the rural area. When you take agriculture, it's just an occupation so far. It's not utilizing labor productivity, land productivity, water productivity, all are at lowest level. But if the moment you double production by second harvest or triple by third harvest, it means you are not only producing more, but putting labor in intensified form. So instead of 1/3 of the time working, they will be fully engaged throughout the year. Land is also similarly. Whatever water you have, you will have more productive. So this is how we see it.
Okay, thank you very much, Your Excellency, for squeezing your schedule and be with us here on Saturday evening. And we're really thankful for your service again. And we hope we will see you also in another occasion to come and talk to us about GERD and also other new initiative. And I would like to say, as you embark on your new assignment, I wish you all the best. And thank you very much again.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. Okay. Now we go to, I think I'm only about 3 minutes behind according to my schedule. So we are doing fine in terms of time. Now we're going to go to the next talk, which will be by Professor Jacob Arsano on the challenges and opportunities I witnessed in tripartite negotiations. Professor Jacob is the Professor of Hydropolitics in the Department of Political Science and International Relations at Addis Ababa University. Professor, you have 20 minutes, and then we have another also 2 speech, which I will introduce later on. So it'll be 3 talks before we go to the next Q&A. Now I will open the floor for Professor Jacob Arsano.